And as you can notice, the seat to my right is empty this week. I got tired of Austin, so I kicked him off the show. So no more Midwest Mics with Austin. No, I'm just kidding. His work schedule, unfortunately, didn't allow him to be here this week. So Austin is not here, but we're Midwest Mics here in the UClick TV studios. We got Mr. Jim Bly back there behind the scenes, running the soundboard, making us look and sound good. As always, real quick here at the top of the show, do want to send a shout-out to Ryan, who had been helping us out the last few weeks, months, as an intern, and he graduated, so he's getting a big boy job now. So congratulations to Ryan, and thanks. We appreciate your help over the last few months for our show, and then everything you were doing also at UClick TV with Jim and so Jim Bly's back there running everything this week, getting reacclimated to that producer chair. But he's ready to go. And as always, we're ready to go here on the Midwest Mike Show on UClick TV. We are inside the Hy-Vee Arena. As always, very historic place in Kansas City. And, if you want to shoot some hoops, they're open. Come on down, $6 a day. They got the gym downstairs. They got all kinds of basketball courts, pickleball courts.
350-meter running track. That's only 50 meters shy than a traditional high school track.
There you go. So 350-meter running track up top. You can use that, like I said, $6 a day. And you can use any of these great facilities here. They are practicing the social distancing and requiring masks and all those things if you're roaming around the arena. The only reason I don't have one on is because I'm actually in studio. So here inside the studio, Jim and I are more than 6 feet apart, so we are not wearing masks. But when we leave the studio, we do put them on. And I went down to Longboards and got some lunch today, so I wore it, when I went down there and ordered my food. All the workers were wearing masks, and then as I picked it up and came back, still had my mask on and came in here and ate. So there's the Wing Busters down there that's open. You got Jesse's All-American Diner. Pretty good spot. I was going to go in there, but, he was closed today. But, lots of good stuff here going on at the Hy-Vee Arena. And they got some events and things coming up. You can always check out the website, HyVeeArena.com, to figure all that out. But I'm going to bring in our guest this week at this time from KSHSAA, Jeremy Holaday. He is the Assistant Executive Director in baseball, softball, boys and girls golf, mainly in charge of, the baseball and softball, boys and girls golf sports, handles media, public relations, media broadcast requests. He handles all the social media for KSHSAA, yearbook and record book, student advisory team. So a lot of hats that Jeremy wears, but we thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. As you know, I need a lot of hats now looking at this picture you guys got here, thinning out a little bit more and more every day.
Yeah, it's probably from wearing all those hats. That's what they used to tell me when I was younger. Wearing hats, you're going to lose your hair.
That's right. I shouldn't have played baseball so much, I guess.
Yeah. Why don't you start, just kind of give us a little bit about your background and how you got started with KSHSAA.
Yeah, I took probably most people in this job, it's a little more unconventional route, mainly because of how the position came about. But I went to K-State, got a couple degrees from K-State, and I was in athletic operations in the athletic department for about a year and a half. And I umpired baseball throughout the entire college life. So it was a great, obviously, side job for a college kid. And so I got entrenched into the rules of being an umpire, mechanics, and then also coached a little American League baseball as a kid for my school that I graduated from. And eventually the Activities Association started a new position. It was for sports information and communications and baseball administration. So it fit pretty good because when I was an undergrad at K-State, I was in the sports information office there for 4 years. So I had a little knowledge in that department as well. So the fit was pretty good. And so that was 9 years ago now. So kind of taken that track and grown on it, added some responsibility here and there, and enjoyed it a lot. And I sit on a couple national rules committees, the National Baseball Rules Committee for the NFHS, and some professional development summer meeting evaluation committee planning throughout the NFHS. So that's kind of how it is and how it's blossomed, and now I'm here.
Well, that's great. And, you mentioned the NFHS. For those people that may not be familiar, it is the national high school organization that does the rules for all sports, baseball, basketball, football, and then they kind of give those rules to your state organizations, such as KSHSAA, and then KSHSAA uses that information and funnels it down and makes it more specific to the state of Kansas. Did I sum that up right?
Very much. So, yeah, it's been obviously very in tune with the NFHS when I first started the job. And then recently when I got on the baseball rules committee, I'm actually going to be going into my 4th year on that committee this school year. And so I've very much learned how that process works when it comes to, while they are a national governing body put together the rules, people like me in the state associations represent sections. So Kansas is part of a Section 5 with various other Midwest states. And so I represent Section 5. So we have a voice as far as how the playing rules are set, determined, voted on, and things of that nature. So it's been neat to see how that process can just unfolds from start to finish.
Hey, Jason, Jim Bly here. Real quick, you said you umpired. Do you know our good friend Ron Rodriguez?
I don't know. It doesn't ring a bell. I probably should.
He was in charge of a lot of college scheduling and stuff. That's the only reason I asked. But he's in charge. He's the commissioner of the Mink League. So he's been around baseball for a long time. I thought maybe you would have crossed paths, but a good friend of the show. I
don't think I have with him.
Okay. Yeah. So let's kind of go back in time here to the beginning of this pandemic. It kind of, I don't think anybody, we saw it coming, and you guys were in the midst of basketball championships, had gotten to the quarterfinals there in March when, everything else starts shutting down, all the professional leagues, the NBA, the NCAA canceled the March Madness tournament, conference tournaments were being canceled, all that's happening. What was that few days like for you and some of your colleagues over there?
Well, I distinctly remember I was just gotten back from state wrestling, 6A, 5A state wrestling in Park City. So that week after state wrestling and the week before, state basketball is sub-state basketball, obviously. I think the very first time I read in serious context about the coronavirus was that week. And we just began getting some questions from our membership about, are there special things we need to do with sub-state basketball and going into state basketball as it's concerned with coronavirus? And I'll be honest with you, I was kind of taken back by it all because I just didn't know much about it, and we hadn't discussed it much. The only thing I knew about it was I would see in the news, and if you remember late February, there wasn't a whole lot at that time. The main thing I was concerned about was, do we think the coronavirus to impact our schedule in the near future as far as sub-state basketball and state basketball? And at that time, we didn't think it was a legitimate concern to impact. Well, obviously, what a matter of 10 days makes. Because I remember that Wednesday, usually state basketball is filled with a lot of basketball and checking out your schools, talking with administrators, and just, things that people do at tournaments to know what's on the horizon about typical years. But this year was filled with a lot of backroom conversations on the phone because as you guys know, in Kansas, we have 7 different sites going on at the same time. or 6, sorry. And so we're trying to keep touch with each of those sites. We have an administrator at each site trying to figure out what are they hearing in their area of the state, and what do we need to keep an eye on. So on the phone a lot. And I remember that Wednesday was really piqued our interest because you said, I think that's right when the NBA had canceled the game. And then we saw the Ivy League Conference basketball tournament. And that's probably when we started to go, something's going on here. And so then Thursday was a blur. I remember I watched the first game, Thursday tip-off, and then I didn't see a single thing of basketball the rest of the day because that was obviously the day that we ultimately made the decision to cancel the tournament. And, it was one of the hardest decisions you could ever try to do is walk into a ballroom and talk with the administrators and then see the faces of the Claflin girls in Dodge City. So the member of the girls who were going for 7 straight championships, telling them that their season was over after the quarterfinal round. So it was very, very difficult, and certainly something we never, ever want to live again.
Yeah, I know that could not have been easy on, any of you guys that were involved in that decision-making process. And, I'm sure that there was probably some backlash, people saying, well, you're already in these locations, so travel's not an issue. Why can't you finish? On the flip side of that, I mean, obviously with NBA shutting down, all these national conferences, big-time conferences shutting down, and you got to think, hey, what's the safest thing for these kids right now? And so, what was kind of were there people on both sides of the fence that were on some of those calls that you were on and in some of those meetings?
Well, you mentioned monitoring like some of the social media things that I do. I was obviously watching Twitter and things Wednesday evening into Thursday, and when the NCAA started canceling things, I remember just seeing the interaction on our social media was people were just trashing us for not canceling our tournament. And I just remember thinking, I don't know if it's there. Are we there yet? Why are people so mad at us for not canceling the tournament yet? And then we were on a conference call with all of us administrators in the corner room of United Wireless Arena in Dodge City. And we were talking about things that we were hearing from the Kansas Department of Health and the governor's office at the time. And I remember on the phone call, and I saw a tweet pop up, and I saw that the NCAA has canceled the NCAA tournament. And so I said, hey, guys, just saw this come about. And then 5 minutes later, I said, let me take that a step further. They not only canceled the basketball tournament, they canceled the entire spring sports season, which was just, I think, when I said that, I just remember a collective silence on the phone for, what felt like forever. I'm sure it was only a minute, but it made us go, we really need to take a step back about where we are. Because as you said, well, people are already there. Why can't we just continue the tournament? You're rotating genders as far as Wednesday to Thursday. So there were some teams that played Wednesday and maybe went home. And we don't know where they, obviously we know where they were going home, but we don't know what they did in that time. And at that time, we had no idea where the virus was, where it was tracking, anything of that nature. And so some of those teams were going to be coming back Friday potentially. So I'm not saying that's a major factor, but that's obviously one thing you have to consider. And then you have some scheduling and some facility issues that were starting to take place. Some schools were pretty nervous about even coming back to compete for state basketball on Friday if they had to. So tons of different factors that were being weighed. And ultimately when the governor of Kansas, Governor Kelly, declared a state of emergency for the state of Kansas, that was a pretty big factor in the decision to going ahead and canceling the rest of the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, obviously looking back, I feel like you guys made the right decision. It was a tough decision. I mean, I know as a coach how important –